Welcome to the Last Week Tonight Parody. I'm your host, Gianna Gregorio, and tonight's segment is on GMOs. The only thing that can strike more fear into the heart of a white suburban mom than the prospect of running out of boxed wine or Minions memes. Or both. The FDA includes genetically modified foods on their list of generally regarded as safe, which is pretty much the upper echelon of this is pretty much safe as long as you don't eat a shit ton of it. But perhaps the most comprehensive report was that of the National Academy of Sciences, a well-regarded, non-governmental, non-profit organization that compiled research, and it concluded that genetically modified crops are safe for consumption. It added they do not contribute to obesity, autism, or allergies, and they yield just as much or more than traditionally grown crops. The final report was 584 pages, and this is a fact that is 583 pages longer than Donald Trump's attention span. Corn was originally teosinte, bananas were originally this, and all domesticated dogs came from wolves. You should be no more afraid of your GMO Nature Valley granola bar than your neighbor's purebred dog, Duke Tinky Poo Poo. No, I do not want to pet your sentient, bug-eyed tater tot, and I have serious qualms about his qualifications for the throne. Thank you. Anyways, some might argue that, well, selective breeding is different than direct genome splicing, and the only fundamental differences are that 1, genetic modification directly is faster, and 2, it can add genes from other sources, creating what are known as transgenic organisms. Insisting on boycotting genetically modified products in favor of selectively breeding them is like waiting for an actual school of sharks to write, direct, and star in Shark Tale. In most cases, these genes would not naturally occur in the population, so even selectively breeding for them doesn't yield the traits the engineers are looking for. From corn editing with Bacillus thuringiensis to ward off weevils, to drought-resistant crops, to honeybees genetically modified to resist the varroa mites, which are causing mass die-outs in bee populations. And coincidentally, that sounds like a really good plot for B-Movie 2. The major problems with GMOs are actually problems with larger agricultural monopolies, like unnecessary corporate restrictions on farmers and monoculture. But the non-GMO movement is just as big of an industry as traditional farming. Last year alone, products with a non-GMO Project Verified label sold over $2.3 billion worth of products. But this label can be deceiving. The non-GMO project is not a governmental entity, and corporations pay to be verified. And much smaller businesses cannot afford the price of certification, giving large corporations an advantage. Companies like food giant Cargill, which makes Truvia sweetener, and the Eggs and Egg McMuffins, and Purina dog food, have admitted to putting a label on products even if they dubiously qualify, and largely so that they can sell better. They also have this on their website, which sounds like what your white friend would say before walking up to a group of black people and saying something really racist. Don't worry, guys. I speak chocolate. What's up, motherfucking homies in the hood? Even products that don't have genes, like rock salt and bottled water, are being labeled as non-GMO. I mean, they technically aren't because they don't have genes, but it's like saying this box does not contain 57 live caribou. I mean, you're right. Yeah, it physically can't contain 57 live caribou, but good to know. Thank you. And here's where the government needs to come in. The non-GMO project uses fear-mongering to sell the idea that GMOs are something that should be avoided. And this belief is just as baseless and harmful as anti-vaxxers or climate change deniers. Basically, all the people you meet at any given family reunion. Technically, the non-GMO project label cannot be removed by the federal government because of its status as a 504 nonprofit based in Canada. But there are a few things that bureaucracy can do to dispel the pseudoscience of both consumers and producers alike. Firstly, the FDA heavily pressures companies, although not explicitly mandating them, to label foods with genetically modified ingredients. Even though some argue this is just brand transparency, it implies that genetically modified foods are something consumers need to look out for, effectively scaring the general public even more. And currently, brands can choose how they want to word it, and some of which are pretty vague. They range from the direct genetically engineered, which is fine, to, and this is a quote from the FDA website, some of our growers plant soybean seeds that were developed through modern biotechnology to be drought tolerant. How do you fit that on a package? The FDA could even keep the made with genetic engineering label, but qualify it. GMOs have been proven by the FDA to be safe for human consumption would be fine. Or this product is made with genetically modified ingredients, but it still tastes fucking amazing. Or even made with GMOs, but you should be way more concerned about the cholesterol in this because I know you're going to eat the entire pint of ice cream in one sitting. Girl, you were way better than he was anyway, and you deserve this ice cream. The FDA and USDA could even raise awareness of the safety of GMOs through advertising. If the state of California can hire Michael Bay to do that Aaron Burr Got Milk commercial, yeah, that was Michael Bay who directed that. Or make Dr. Phil do this, then the USDA can at least put out a few print ads sticking out their neck for GM crops. Worst comes to worst, government by proxy can do the job. Lots of future-forward companies are using their genetically modified ingredients as a point of pride. It's not like Monsanto is self-advertising by endorsing GMOs, but it's companies like Soylent that use their platform and put up billboards like this. I know what you're thinking. Soylent? Isn't that the green crackers from that one movie where they end up being made from— No spoilers! Don't spoil it! If you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. It's like one of the best sci-fi movies ever. But no spoilers. Anyway, no. Soylent's namesake is the eponymous cracker. And kind of sick because that's not a good business model. But anyway, it's actually a nutrition drink for people too busy or too lazy to make full meals. You could call it Ensure for millennials, if you will. Given its status as vegan, nutrient balanced, and pesticide free, Soylent is basically healthier than Jillian Michaels on a juice cleanse riding an elliptical. But even though this might make it seem like it would be organic, Soylent does not qualify for organic status under USDA policy. And this is where the federal government needs to step in. The USDA could expand its standards for organic crops to not require certified organic foods to be non-GMO. Lots of genetically modified foods would qualify for this organic status because they use less, if any, pesticides. But it'd be like entering Duke Tinky Poo Poo into a dog show and being turned down because he's just as artificial as a dog on steroids who just did a bar of Xanax and knows how to paint a really good contour. You might be ugly, but you're not as artificial as him. And again, even though GMOs are on the FDA's generally regarded as safe list, this isn't to deny the fact that monopolies like Monsanto have undue influence in agribusiness. The federal government has the ability to disband companies that have control over entire markets, and Monsanto and its subsidiaries are pretty damn close. Hashtag, don't bust a nut, bust a trust. If the federal government were to split up mega corporations, those who oppose GMO crops for anti-capitalist reasons could rest a little easier. They could start appreciating the science for what it is, a safe way to give the nutrients needed to future generations. In the end, it would help small farms that simply can't afford the non-GMO qualified label, or can't afford to switch from conventional farming. In general, genetically modified seeds require less land, less water, and 37% less pesticides. And yeah, genetically modified plants decrease the use of pesticides, contrary to popular belief. This is largely because the anti-pest genes, like the aforementioned Bacillus thuringiensis, are coded into the crops themselves, but don't run off into the surrounding environments after a rainstorm. But because it's self-contained, it doesn't hurt human consumers. You can't even taste a difference unless you find this incredibly sexy. If you do, you're probably a corn weevil, and you should get that checked out. Or you're a human with a very difficult time finding what you want on Pornhub. I typed Cornhub, not Pornhub. What is this shit? So TLDR, if you're anti-pesticide, support small farmers, and you're pro-science, genetically modified crops should be in your radar. You can't disdain the anti-vaxxers, global warming deniers, and other pseudoscientists while simultaneously latching onto the anti-GMO movement. A lack of access to this technology has some pretty dire consequences, and the federal government, especially the USDA and FDA, have the power to curtail misled fears and encourage its sustainable biotechnology policy, which helps the environment and the American people alike.